Nebosh IGC 2 question and answer. Number 1. Identify 4 health effects of working outside in extreme heat created by the sun. Identify 4 health effects of working outside in extreme heat created by the sun. Answers: skin burns, dehydration, heat exhaustion, heat cramps, heat strokes, heat stress. Number 2. Outline control measures that could be used to reduce the effects of the sun on construction workers. Outline control measures that could be used to reduce the effects of the sun on construction workers. Answers: give workers cold drinks with electrolytes to replenish the salt lost by the body. Implement job rotation to minimize exposure from the sun. Provide shielding and refuge during break time. Give workers regular work breaks to have rest. Provide suitable clothing such as the coverall to protect from direct exposure. Number 3. Outline prevention strategies an organization could consider to reduce the risk of violence towards workers. Outline prevention strategies an organization could consider to reduce the risk of violence towards workers. Answers: provision of training on how to handle the dangerous situation and aggressive people. Tight security system such as 24-hour security guards. Installing CCTV systems, callback systems, particularly for lone workers. Provide arrangement for staff working late. Change of public waiting areas and provision of escape routes. Next question. A large office is open to the public for inquiries, and the risk assessment has shown a significant risk of violence to workers from visitors. Outline measures that the employer could take to reduce the risk. Outline measures that the employer could take to reduce the risk. Answers: manage the queue and provide information to consumers. Open parenthesis, the time customers spend waiting to pay and their experiences in the queue. Minimize face-to-face contact with customers. Use cashless system. If possible, avoid lone working every time. Place an effective call in systems for lone workers. Arrangement for staff working late. Provide a sufficient training for employees. Change public waiting areas. Provide staff with escape routes. Installation of video cameras and alarms. Provide protective screens or security codes between the employees and customers. Counters should be wide with higher floor for staff. Security guard to be present at all times. Number 5. Identify welfare and work environment requirements that should be provided in a workplace. Identify welfare and work environment requirements that should be provided in a workplace. Answers: sanitary conveniences, washing facilities, drinking water, accommodation for clean clothing, facilities for changing clothing, men and women, facilities for eating meals, facilities for resting, ambient temperature, heating, and clothing. Number 6. A 3-meter deep trench has to be dug across a car park. Identify hazards associated with the work. A 3-meter deep trench has to be dug across a car park. Identify hazard associated with the work. Answers: falls of equipment, persons, and materials. Collapse of excavation or structures nearby. Buried services. Flooding. Fire and explosion from gas leak. Access and egress. Hazardous atmospheres. Undermining adjacent structures. Contact with contaminated soil. Number 7. A 3-meter deep trench has to be dug across a car park. Outline control measures that could be implemented to reduce the risk. A 3-meter deep trench has to be dug across a car park. Outline control measures that could be implemented to reduce the risk. Answers: carry out a risk assessment to identify the hazard and risk, the people who are exposed, and the control measures required. Nearby structures must not be undermined. Procedure must be in place to deal with emergencies. The type of soil needs to be assessed prior to excavation. All personnel should be trained and competent. Prevent collapse by using the methods such as battering, trench box, a structure that goes inside the excavation to support shoring it. Number 8. Control measures that can be taken when carrying out excavation. Control measures that can be taken when carrying out excavation. Answers: precaution against flooding or pumps. Traffic roads should be clearly marked. Inspection by competent person before filling in. Workers should wear correct PPE. Inspect excavation before the start of every shift. Inspect excavation after any event that could affect the strength, such as earthquake or heavy rains. Inspect after any accidental fall of rock, earth, or other materials. Number 9. Identify precautions necessary to prevent injury when working in and around excavation. Identify precautions necessary to prevent injury when working in and around excavation. Answers: avoid undermining the nearby structures. Arrangement and procedures for emergencies. Assess the soil type. Use trained and competent personnel. Methods in place to prevent collapse, e.g., battering or shoring. Adequate lighting. Barriers and signs to prevent people and vehicles from falling in. Identify precautions necessary to prevent injury when working in and around excavations. Identify precautions necessary to prevent injury when working in and around excavations. Answers: precaution against flooding or dewatering pumps. Traffic roads clearly marked. Inspection by competent person before filling in. Workers should wear correct PPE. Check for soil contamination. Safe access and egress. Next, number 11. List of control measures when working at height. List control measures when working at height. Answers: employers should avoid working at height where possible. Use work equipment or other measures to prevent falls or reduce the distance of fall and consequences. Ensure all work at height is properly planned and organized. Monitor weather conditions. Adequately trained and competent staff should only at heights. Place of work is safe and equipment is inspected. The risk of fragile ropes and falling objects is controlled. Next, number 12. Repair work is to be carried out on the roof of a school. Identify two control measures to reduce the risk to other people. Repair work is to be carried on the roof of a school. Identify two control measures to reduce the risk to other people. Answers: barricade the area to prevent unauthorized entry. Two boards to be installed to prevent tools from falling and hitting people. Install signage to warn pedestrians. Place safety net around the work area to catch falling objects that could hit the pedestrians. Next, number 13. Give the meaning of the term ergonomics. Answer: the relationship or interface between a worker and the working environment. The relationship or interface between a worker and the working environment, ergonomics. Next, number 14. Identify possible health effects that may be caused by poor ergonomics design of display screen equipment workstation. Identify possible health effects that may be caused by poor ergonomic design of display equipment workstation. Answers: musculoskeletal disorder, hand, arm, shoulder, and neck disorders, eye and eyesight problems, eye strain, eye fatigue, fatigue and stress due to high work rate, lack of social interaction, and lack of breaks. Next, question number 15. Identify the main factors to be considered in an ergonomic assessment of a display screen equipment workstation. Identify the main factors to be considered in an ergonomic assessment of a display screen equipment workstation. Answers: the assessment should identify the risk and their extent, the people affected, the existing controls and their adequacies, records the significant findings, and how the assessment is to be reported and to whom. Factors to be considered includes organization, job rotation, shift and breaks, individual, training, health and physical characteristic, health surveillance, environment, noise, lighting, space, screen glare, temperature, equipment, height and position of keyboard and screen, sitting posture, chair design, screen definition and color, adjustability of equipment, suitable software. Number 16. Identify precautions that would need to be considered before welding work can commence. Identify precautions that would need to be considered before welding work can commence. Answers: competent welders, trained and experienced. Correct equipment, pre-use inspection. Permit to work system is in place. Barriers to prevent unauthorized entry into welding area. Warning and safety signage adequately placed. Dedicated safe welding area with adequate ventilation, e.g. LEV. Availability of fire extinguishers. Provision of PPE to workers. Avoid manual handling of heavy equipment. Use mechanical aid. Separate areas for flammables and anything that could initiate fire. Number 17. Identify ways in which accident may be prevented when using ladders as a means of access. Identify ways in which accident may be prevented when using ladders as a means of access. Answers: the ladder is of the correct length or type and in good condition, e.g. not painted or damaged. The ladder must be placed the right way up, on firm ground, and at correct angle, securely footed or tied in position to avoid overreaching or contact with live cables. The base of the ladder should be protected from collisions by people or vehicles. Users of the ladder should have suitable footwear free from mud or grease and be provided with a means of keeping their hands free, e.g. tool belts. Number 18. Outline the main hazard that may be present during the demolition of a building. Outline the main hazard that may be present during the demolition of a building. Answers: hazard in demolition are generally from falling debris and masonry, premature collapse of a building, falls from height or same level, contact with underground and overhead services, explosion and fire, use of explosives, chemical and biological contamination, asbestos, manual handling such as masonry works, plant collision and toppling over. Health issues could also include noise and vibration. Next question, number 19. Identify 4 hazards that can cause trips or slips. Identify 4 hazards that can cause trips or slips. Answers: trailing cables, torn carpet, uneven floor, wet floor. Number 20. Identify control measures that can be used to reduce the risk of slips and trips. Identify control measures that can be used to reduce the risk of slips and trips. Answer: adequate lighting. Eliminate the need to carry load that obstruct the vision. Implement procedures to wear correct footwear. All floors surfaces should be made non-slip. Maintenance of all floors surfaces. Monitor the area for good housekeeping. To be continued.